Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Friday, November 18th. This is Gina McGuire. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen very little precipitation, and really any light showers were focused over the eastern half of the Great Basin. Even over the last week, the image on the left shows the main precipitation was focused over the central Idaho mountains, with only some lighter shower activity further south into parts of eastern Nevada and western Utah, and also some lighter showers in the Sierra. This activity was well below normal for what we would normally see this time of year. Over the last 30 days, the image on the right shows the precipitation was near to just above normal over parts of western and northern Nevada up into Idaho, but well below normal further south over the rest of the Great Basin and over the central Idaho mountains. The water vapor satellite loop from this morning shows a ridge of high pressure dominating the west. However, this will be pushed eastward as a strong area of low pressure off the west coast approaches. This will bring much windier conditions and also precipitation to the Great Basin. However, for today, we will likely see temperatures near to just above normal with dry conditions. Now we will look at the ventilation index for today. Ventilation will remain fairly poor across most of the Great Basin underneath the high pressure, especially across Nevada and Utah. It might be slightly higher over parts of the lower elevations of Idaho. If we look at the winds today, on the left, winds will be light this morning but will be increasing with some areas of gusty winds, mainly across Idaho, but also in parts of northern and central Nevada and the Sierra. Winds will start picking up today. However, mixing heights will still remain relatively low today for one more day across Nevada and Utah and will be increasing over Idaho. As we move into Saturday, this area of low pressure off the west coast starts to approach and winds really start to increase, along with bringing precipitation to parts of western and northern areas of the Great Basin later in the day on Saturday. We'll still continue to see drier conditions over the eastern side of the Great Basin. Therefore, under this ridge over the east side, we'll still see relatively poor dispersion. However, dispersion will be improving dramatically on Saturday over most of Nevada and up into parts of Idaho as those southerly winds increase as the storm approaches. Looking at the winds on Saturday, the transport winds show very strong winds over the Sierra front and into parts of central Nevada, where wind gusts will easily exceed 50 or 55 miles per hour at times. Even further east, we will see higher wind gusts, somewhere between 30 and 40 miles per hour over the eastern side of Nevada into Utah. Also, mixing heights will be raising during this time period of these stronger winds. Therefore, definitely better dispersion is expected, especially across Nevada on Saturday. As we move into Sunday, the storm really starts to move in, spreading that precipitation across much of the Great Basin, with the heaviest precipitation over parts of Idaho into northern and western Nevada and the Sierra. Also, the ventilation index will remain quite high as these stronger winds spread eastward on Sunday, especially over western Utah and the eastern half of Nevada. Looking at the transport winds on Sunday, and you can see where these stronger winds will be over much of the southern half of Nevada into western Utah and into parts of Idaho. Winds will be decreasing as the low moves across parts of western Nevada. Therefore, we will see lower mixing heights and slightly weaker dispersion on Sunday over the western and northwest side of the state. If we look at the Utah Forecast Clearing Index for the next 3 days, you can see how the clearing index is increasing significantly as we go from Friday, where the clearing index is relatively low under the ridge, to improving more significantly over the western side of the state on Saturday, and really in all areas by Sunday, especially with those stronger winds, we will see very high clearing indices. Looking at the forecast amount of precipitation over the next few days, and you can see where the heaviest amounts of precipitation are expected in northern California and into the Sierra, where we will likely see over 3 to 4 inches of total liquid precipitation. However, in the higher elevations, much of this will fall as snow. Further east, though, we will see good amounts of rainfall over parts of Nevada and into the central Idaho mountains, where we could see anywhere from a ½ inch up towards 3/4 of an inch of total precipitation. Further east across Utah, only very light shower activity is expected. Now looking at the outlook as we go into next week, as this first trough of low pressure moves across the Great Basin, it will open the door for additional systems to continue to move across the area over the next week to 10 days or longer. Therefore, on Monday, this main system will be moving over the eastern side of the basin, with still cloudy and showery conditions over much of the area, with the exception of possibly the far south. Also, ventilation indices will remain relatively high over Nevada and into much of the southern half of Utah and the Arizona Strip, as these gusty winds shift from southwest to northwest and keep the mixing heights relatively high. Still, we'll likely see poor dispersion closer to the area of low pressure over northern Utah into Wyoming and southeast Idaho. As we move into Tuesday, the area of low pressure moves well to the east, with brief high pressure ridging over the area, bringing slightly warmer and drier conditions to much of the Great Basin. However, as we move into Wednesday, another area of low pressure already quickly approaches the northwest, which may bring some additional shower activity to generally the northern and western side of the Great Basin, with continued drier conditions in the south. And by Thursday, we'll likely see another drying period briefly, but yet another system is lingering off the west coast, which will move in later in the week, bringing additional chances for precipitation and gusty winds. Looking at the overall forecast amount of precipitation from Monday morning through Wednesday morning, and you can see much of the precipitation is focused now over the eastern half of the Great Basin as this first area of low pressure tracks further east. So some areas of Utah, especially in the higher elevations, will see precipitation above 3/4 of an inch. As we look a little bit further ahead into the end of November and early December, we'll likely see near to just above normal temperatures and better chances of above normal precipitation really in all areas of the Great Basin. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.